Well, I'm actually inspired by lifestyle. Before even beautiful rooms, I kind of got into this business really passionate about, how architecture and how design could really transform the way you live. And I thought that was an amazing concept. And I think that designers are actually more than creative people. They're actually part shaman, if you're good at it. And you can really kind of see what someone needs in order to be able to craft a room around that. So that having been said, after kind of a long trajectory, I decided that I wanted to build a house in Los Angeles from the ground up that was a concept house that was all about sort of breaking down these paradigms, very much like you had said, that doing away with overscale living rooms that didn't serve a great purpose, that they were sort of hands-off, and also eliminating sort of overscale dining rooms that we only used 4 or 5 times a year. So I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to, from the ground up, build a model of what I think is sort of the new luxury. And so I built this house, and thankfully, Carolyn and Dara found it worthy of making it into the Veranda Showcase House in Los Angeles this last year. And so all of my friends, Los Angeles-based designers, were able to come and do rooms in the space. So in the house, I actually did the entry hall, the kitchen, and the family room. But in the entry hall, the reason why I chose this picture to show was that I designed the entry hall to be wide enough. It was 12 feet wide, which allowed for a long banquet table, a long dining table for that 4 or 5 times a year that you wanted to have a big dinner with maybe 25 or 30 family members or friends. So it was kind of an ideal situation because the furniture is all on the peripheral. So naturally, so you could just run a long banquet table down the center, and it functioned really well. You open the doors out to the stables, and it was sort of a lovely situation. This is the great room. Again, it's sort of a salon in a sense, but it's a music room. It's a great room. There's a lot of there's a contemporary sofa on this side that you don't see, and the fireplace is off center on this side. So it sort of separates the room into sort of nice areas, because I think families today need to really be able to coexist. We don't come and all sit and face each other anymore. We're multitasking, and then the kids are in one part of the room, and the mothers are at the bar, and the so all of those elements are important to incorporate into one room if we're ever going to see each other. So and I wanted you to notice the gorgeous horse's hind quarter in the hallway. I just wanted to illustrate the scale of the hallway. And I actually built a 1-story house too, because I felt like every day, I live in a 2-story house, I'm going up and down those stairs and taking that 10-second inventory, like lipstick, sunglasses, the whole thing. And then I decided at the end of the year, all those little 10 seconds added up to like 2 weeks. So I thought, well, I want that 2 weeks back. So I just wanted to build a 1-story house because I thought it just seemed so smart and practical. Anyway, this was the family room, and you can't see a lot of the detail in it, but there's just beautiful old oak plank wood on the walls. And the idea, the stables are just outside of those windows, so it's just beyond there. But the idea that this sort of felt like maybe a previous structure is sort of where the design inspiration came from, and I just wanted it to look like a young family lived there. And I guess that's really my job, is to take these big lives in Los Angeles and fit them into beautiful rooms. So and it could be, so this particularly is another example of sort of areas within one great room. There's a craft table to one side. My kids were those kids that went to school with the art project made out of newspapers, because I was a working mom. So I thought, I wanted to set this family up for success, to where their kids would sit down at this table and actually have construction paper and things like that. My kids did very well, thank you, but but they weren't exactly set up. Okay, so this was in the stables, but I also saw the stables as like a place that you could go, and really the horses are on this side, but just a place you could go and sort of appreciate, the things that you've collected along the way and that type of thing. This was in an original George Washington Smith in Los Angeles, in Holmby Hills. And this particular room was the garden room. And when I designed this room, I actually did silvered wallpaper and then commissioned a wonderful artist by the name of Scott Waterman to do the chinoiserie and gauche on it. So this was actually hand-painted. It was a commissioned project, and it took him about 3 or 4 months to complete it. And the paper is so amazing, and because of where the room is positioned on the property, in the evening, cocktail hour, the sun sets, and so the whole room turns copper. So it's really quite amazing. And it was an accident, but I claimed it as if I intended it. The client called me at happy hour and said, "Did you have any idea?" And I was like, "What? Absolutely. Are you kidding?" So this is the room looking back the other direction. And actually, this room was the garden room, but the husband is a writer for television. And he felt that this was sort of his creative space in the house out of this, 12,000 square feet. So he wanted his desk right in the center of this room. So to be able to balance those masculine and feminine energies was really sort of the fun challenge of this project, was to be able to, have a man feel really welcome and comfortable in this sort of feminine space. Let's see. And this is looking at the other end. So that is a lovely Picasso, so the art wasn't too shabby. And I liked mixing the very contemporary sort of Parsons table, gilded Parsons table from Ecola in with that, and it's dark carpet. This is a Greystone mansion where we started our love affair, and I was so flattered and honored that I got to do the master suite, and it was my first and only showcase house I've ever done, independent of the one that we built. And I really all of a sudden realized that I had this challenge in that I didn't have a client. So I always come up with these sort of log lines or this inspiration that you can put into one sentence. And I was unable to do that because I didn't have anyone, so I had to make something up. So I was like, oh my God, who lives here? So I decided that if the Sultan of Brunei and the Duchess of Windsor had a love child, this would be her room. So that enabled me to actually be able to come up with all the great inspiration for there, which was these very classical elements that was sort of the Duchess, and then these very kind of Indian elements that were from the Sultan. So there you go. That's the room from another angle. It was a whole lot of fun. We actually did a space together, a combined space together. Do you remember? We had fun doing that.
Yes, that was so much fun.
It was such a good time. And then this was, again, sort of answering a problem or an issue, something that someone wanted to resolve in a space, which was this gal has 5 children. Her husband's a director. And she wanted a room that was in the center of the house that she could literally see what all of her children were doing at different points and times of the day. But she wanted it to be very much her space, and she wanted it to be a beautiful space. So we decided to do the double-sided couch, and it was literally looking off the yard. We had to sort of fade out the trampoline that's in the background. And then off this way is the kitchen, and off this way is the foyer, so she could see who was coming. And then off of the other side was the kids' playroom. So she literally was perched in the middle. Now, originally, this was the dining room to the house, the formal dining room. But with 5 kids, let's face it, I mean, there's just not going to be a formal dinner. So we ended up putting that space within the kitchen breakfast area. So she got her room. Oh, am I supposed to be pointing it that way? Maybe that's the problem. This was a little banquette that was tucked in the corner. Lovely photograph. This is just a room that I've always adored. That's one of my rugs at Cravat, all silk, Chinese silk. I actually did all of the paneling in this space. I do a lot of build projects. This particular one, I did a radical reconstruction. And I brought in the sort of element on the ceiling and the paneling to give this room, it was a new house, a fairly new house, and I wanted to give it just some thickness. So, and I love that piece. The whole room was really inspired by that lovely sort of 1940s French bookcase. And then, I love textiles, and I love color. I mean, I don't discriminate. I love all of it. I feel so lucky to be in this business. I really do. Okay, that's it.
Okay, thanks, guys.